Hello, greetings everyone. My name is Albert Omuko, and just want to touch on a few things, some things that I saw on social media just a few days ago, and I think that if I share my story, maybe someone will pick something out of it and get blessed. Now, I stayed in Dubai for 7 good years. I was working in some companies there, and really good companies. I was getting really well paid until my job came to an abrupt end. It's not something that I really expected. It's something that came to me as a surprise. But then it happened, and I stayed without a job in Dubai for around 7 to 8 months until I got another job, and for one reason or another, my visa couldn't be processed, and that's a story for another day. So I had to come back home in April of 2014, and thanks be to God, because I was able to get a job as soon as I came back, because I remember I arrived in Kenya on a Wednesday, and by Friday I had a job. So then the other question that people are asking is, what would I advise the people who have come back to Kenya from the Gulf, or from any other country for that matter, and they are finding it hard to settle? What I would advise is that first of all, it's very normal for you to find it hard to settle, because believe me, even myself, since I've been away for 7 years, even though I was coming every year for 1 month vacation, you find that when you come back finally and you are settling in the country, you find like a total stranger. You find yourself like a total stranger in your own country. So it's normal to feel that way. But then I would advise, what I would advise is that first of all, come into terms with what has happened as soon as possible, because there are some times you find people who are still in denial, people who still can't believe that they have left that country and they have come back. So the sooner you come into terms with that, the better. The second thing is that try to look for people who have been back before you, and these people will work with you. Try also to find for a support group. Like, for example, I know there are a group of Kenyans who have formed a WhatsApp group and some groups in social media, Facebook, and they are keeping tabs onto each other. You find that some of them maybe actually they can contribute and support someone who is struggling. So do not be alone. Just join one of those support groups. Look for somebody who is faithful, someone that can work with you and not judge you. Okay. The other thing that I would say about those people who have come back is that try to cut down on expenses as much as you can. For example, there's no need for you to go and live in a very expensive neighborhood whereby you know that you are struggling to pay because you do not have a sustainable source of income. Maybe what you have is just a few millions that you've saved in your accounts, or the few hundreds of thousands. You see, what happens is, if you don't cut down on your expenses, sooner or later that money will run out, and you become frustrated and you become stressed and depressed. So it's better that you cut down on your expenses as soon as you can. Even if you lived in a house worth 10,000 a month in, let's say, Eastlands, you know, people will gossip you, people will talk about you because you just came back from abroad and you're living in Eastlands. It's none of their business. As long as you know yourself and you know what your vision is and where you are headed, I think that's the most important thing, okay? The other thing I will say is that hit the ground running. Do not waste time. Do not start waiting and asking yourself, okay, no, what am I going to do with this money? Start a business as soon as you can. And since employment is not really that easy, it's not easy for you to get a job. For me, I got it easily because I was working with the same company. And the same company, when an opportunity came up, I submitted my CV and I was hired. But it's not everyone who will come back and start looking for a job in Kenya and get it, because for one, they fear people who come from abroad, because they know these people will be expensive in terms of salaries. These people, maybe they may come with a different culture or something of that sort. So I'd rather you start a business. How do you start a business? How do you know what business to start? You have gained some skills for the time that you've been in the Gulf. For example, you are working in the hotel industry or in the hospitality industry. Why don't you start a small let's say even a cafeteria. I know a lady who started a restaurant and she's doing excellent in that business. Use the skills, use the experience that you've gained and start a business. I know another brother who started the business of selling spare parts because he knows where they are sourced in Sharjah. And the guy used to go to the UAE, I think once in 3 months. And the guy was doing excellent in the business. So don't say that you don't know what you can do. Make use of your experience, make use of your skills, make use of your connections, the connections that you've made in the UAE, okay? The other thing that was asked is that, what would you advise those who want to come back? Number one is that you have to conquer the fear of the unknown, because most people, they don't want to come back, not because they cannot come back, but because they have this fear of the unknown. They don't know what will happen when I come back home, okay? So you need to conquer that fear, and you just need to make that bold move and come back home, okay? The other thing that I would say is that those who want to come back, you'd rather do it earlier, okay? Because you may be at a point where by now the job is no longer sustainable, the expenses are too high, the living standards where you're working in the UAE or in the Gulf are quite high, and you feel like you're not moving forward. So that's the right time for you to come back and do something with what you have gained in the Gulf, okay? And don't be ashamed, because some people, we want to live to impress people, and that's why we don't want to come back, because if we come back, what will people think of us? But at the end of the day, again, as I said, it's you who knows yourself and what you need in this life. Life is too short for you to be worried about what people will think about you, okay? The other thing, which is the fourth thing that was asked, is that what would you do differently if you were in the Gulf? The first thing I would do differently, especially my younger self, because I went to the Gulf when I was a bit young, in my early 20s, I will tell myself that I have to choose my friends wisely, because I find that I spend a lot of time with people who never added value into my life, people who never had a vision, and so I was also swallowed up in such kind of friendships, you know. So I would choose my friends wisely, even if I had 2 or 3 friends, but people of value, people that when we sit down, we talk things that add value into our lives. That's what I would tell myself. Stop hanging around people who do not have an agenda. You understand? Because at the end of the day, you're just wasting your time and you're wasting your years. So choose quality friendships, people who really add value into your life. The second thing that I would tell myself differently is that invest, okay? Because you see, some people have money stashed somewhere in the bank and they don't know what they can do with that money. But there are so many things that you can do with that money. Go back to Kenya, speak to your relatives, speak to your friends, let them guide you to a place where you can buy parcels of land. There are companies now who are advertising themselves, who deal in plots. Buy some of those plots and let them stay there and keep appreciating, so that by the time you come back, even if you wanted to sell, you can sell at a higher price and make money. The other thing, invest in insurance companies. They have money market funds. Also, there are companies who are doing money market. You can also invest in shares. You can invest you can open up a business if you have someone that you can trust to run the business, maybe your sibling or your friend or something like that. But it doesn't apply all times, because there are some people, when they start a business, they find people that they cannot trust. So these people, they fleece them of their money, you know. They totally run down the business. So, but if you can find someone that you can trust to run that business, better start that business early, okay? That's what I will do differently. So investments is very key and is very important, because you are laying down a foundation for your coming back. The other thing that I would advise someone is to be careful with your relatives. See, what happens is, when we're out there in the diaspora, we want to impress everyone. So your cousins will call you, your uncles, your aunts, everyone will call you, and they have their own problems and they want money from you. Not necessarily because that money was genuinely needed, but then because they feel that when you're abroad, you're just plucking money from somewhere on a tree or something. So I would tell myself to be very, very careful with relatives, because at the end of the day, remember, finali wangani mtaani, You come back home, the same relatives whom you used to send money may not even be able to assist you. As a matter of fact, they may start gossiping you and start laughing at you that you came back. After spending so many years, you came back with nothing. So you have to be very careful and learn to say no, even if it means you will offend some people, but learn to say no when it's necessary. I'm not saying that you should not support your own people. You can when you can, but it's not everyone that you must support, and it's not every time. In fact, it's better that if you can even open up something for them, like a little business for them, so that they can be getting constant source of income to sustain themselves, then they give you a break. God bless you so much, and we keep in touch, and I'll continue sharing on some of the ideas. Okay, thank you. God bless you.